Okay, we are in Unit 3, Chapter 7, Lesson 3. Why was Mexican independence important for Texas? What were the lasting effects of Spanish rule? We will learn about Mexican independence and I will learn about Spanish rule. Here's some pictures for you. Mexico's new rulers, vaqueros of the 1800s. Terms to know. Here's your vocabulary: guarantee, successor, lariat, vaquero, Spanish term for cowboy. Lariat, a long light rope with a noose on the end, used for catching cattle. Successor, a person who follows another. And guarantee, an assurance or promise. Mexico becomes a nation. Guiding question: why was Mexican independence important for Texas? In 1820, a rebellion began in Spain. Military leaders tried to force the country's ruler, King Ferdinand, to accept a constitution. This constitution would have limited royal powers. A civil war broke out between the king's supporters and his opponents. Because of this conflict, Spain paid little attention to the needs of the Mexican people. Clerics or church leaders and mestizos had been at the forefront of the struggle for Mexican independence. In time, however, criollos, or Mexicans of Spanish descent, also joined the revolution. In the fall of 1820, the leader of the criollos, Agustin de Iturbide, took command of the Revolutionary Army. Then in February 1821, Iturbide issued his plan to establish a Mexican empire. Iturbide's plan de Iguala offered people of Mexico 3 guarantees or promises and a plan for government. By this time, the people of Mexico were tired of war and were willing to consider the plan de Iguala. And here's the features of the plan, the guarantees. The Mexican people would be independent from Spain, and the Mexican people would unite with equal rights for mestizos and criollos, and Mexico would be a Catholic nation. The plan of the government was the government would be a constitutional monarchy with an elected Congress of Representatives. In the summer of 1821, the Spanish viceroy was replaced. His successor was Juan O'Donoghue, arrived in July and quickly realized that the Spanish could not defeat the Mexican revolutionaries. O'Donoghue agreed to a treaty with Iturbide. The two leaders signed the Treaty of Cordoba on August 24, 1821. This treaty created the independent nation of Mexico and ended colonial rule in Texas. The former Spanish province of Texas became a territory of a free Mexico. Spain had claimed Texas for 300 years. The first missions in Texas were founded in 1638. However, in all that time, there had been little growth. There were only 3 towns, San Antonio, Goliad, and Nacogdoches, in the interior of Texas. San Antonio, which was the capital and the largest town, had only about 2,000 people. At the end of Spain's rule, Texas was a very large, unoccupied territory with few people or settlements. Many of the people who did live there were very poor. Farmers and ranchers faced constant danger from Native Americans, yet the biggest threat to Mexican Texas was its neighbor, the United States. Spain's legacy in Texas. Guiding question: what were the lasting effects of Spanish rule? In spite of its failure to build strong settlements, Spain made a number of lasting contributions to Texas culture. Many of the things that make Texas the place it is today began during the Spanish era. Spain's legacy in Texas is found in who we are and how we live. It is even present in the roads we travel. Spain's influence is deeply rooted in Texas culture, traditions, and people. The first European language to be used in North America, beginning 500 years ago, was Spanish. Nearly 40% of Texas's population is Hispanic. Family names such as Garcia, Hernandez, Martinez, and Gonzalez are some of the most common names in the country now. Nearly 6 million Texans today have Spanish names. Cattle ranches in Texas adopted Spanish ranching methods and equipment such as chaps and lariats. Chaps are leather leggings that offer protection from spiny plants. Mexican vaqueros or cowboys made the first long cattle drives. In Texas, settlers were quick to adopt Spanish customs. They created a distinct Tejano culture that continues in the state today. Although the Spanish did not settle all of Texas, they had a huge influence on the culture of the entire state. That influence continues today. For example, many places were named by Spanish conquistadors as they explored and mapped Texas. They named the rivers, mountains, valleys, and deserts. Hundreds of Texas communities honor the Spanish past in their names. Physical features: Rio Grande, Guadalupe, Concho, Sonoran. Communities: Amarillo, El Paso, San Antonio, Llano, Del Rio, and Ganado. These are examples of Spanish places and names in Texas. The earliest roads in Texas were trading paths used by Native Americans. Often the Spanish roads followed these earlier trails. The best known Spanish colonial road was El Camino Real, or the Royal Highway. It later became known as the Old San Antonio Road. It stretched from Nacogdoches to Laredo. Another well-known Spanish military road, the Atascocita Road, ran between Texas and Louisiana. Today, Highway 90 follows a similar route.